live on UFC Fight Pass Friday, December 22nd. Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds returns. This time it's the middleweights. Featuring grappling superstar William Tackett, Atos prodigy Calon Sabino, 10th Planet superstar Kyle Chambers, and returning champion Ryan Aitken. He's coming from 10th Planet Atlanta. He's got his leg locks on point. Plus, he has great guard passing, and his rear naked choke is about as high level as you can get.
It is Ryan Aitken.
My name is Ryan Aitken. I represent 10th Planet Atlanta, and I'm a black belt.
Monstrous for this weight class.
I last competed at the Combat Jiu-Jitsu Middleweights a few years ago, and it was the first big professional tournament I've ever won. And I managed to do the entire thing without striking, which is pretty cool. And I'd like to see if I can repeat that again this year. When I did that show, you know, I had a really tough run. You know, I had a tough first match. Got a lower body attack.
And this could be it.
Trying to roll through his green.
Oh,
You
he's
can
gonna
see him
finish it.
grimacing. There's the tap. It is done.
Second match was against Hunter Colvin. It was like tough, man. I don't know if you've ever watched Hunter Colvin, man. He's no pushover.
As soon as it opens up, Hunter starts throwing. Ryan's gonna have to be careful.
Right after that, Kyle Chambers, also a veteran of the show and several EBIs and stuff, had a lot to prove in that match. And then barely scraped by on that one. And then I fought Derek Rayfield, who I had to fight to get into the CJJ in the first place. So it was like a full circle, you know, to have to fight Derek Rayfield, who is another like young up and comer. Dude attacks from all angles, and he's really hard to submit to. So
He's already found himself in the mount, and look at the difference in the escaping. Ooh, man, can he dig this heel hook out? Getting very close to it. What a huge win this would be for the 10th Planet Atlanta student.
those were some tough matches, man, and I found myself going to the overtime a lot in those matches. And that's another thing I'd like to change this time around is I need to finish people in regulation.
Derek can finish from right here. He's got this dead orchard locked up. This is bad. This could be a finish right here.
Can Rayfield capture the gold right now?
Man. Oh,
Aitken
Ryan
in
gets
some
out.
serious trouble, but he gets
Oh,
free.
man.
Shakes it off. Oh my goodness.
I thought that was a finish.
I feel like there's a higher sense of urgency when somebody starts throwing hands at your face, and you are actually taking some like very minor concussions. If you're on bottom, for sure, I mean, your head's rebounding against the mat. People are getting more savvy as to how to throw palm strikes, even though it's open hand and it might look like slaps, you know. When they're thrown straight down the center, then it's a palm strike. So now you're dealing with some bass root and shit. When at the last one, when I'm down in Mexico and the first match is happening ahead of me and I'm seeing like blood on the mat and I look to my right and there's a stretcher and this guy's just now getting TKO'd on the side, and like the ref is kind of trying to hold him in the ring and not let him like fall off the stage, and now I'm like looking at him while the guy's pounding his face in. So yeah, now it looks like I'm in a fight for my life or something, you know, like it was some Mexico shit down there for sure.
We're gonna see fireworks in this one.
I feel like my style of jiu-jitsu has always been to be kind of tight. I feel like I'm more submission oriented too because of the style that Sean teaches us with finishing mechanics. Like I'm just more well-rounded, and when it comes to CJJ, it's important to be very well-rounded. Just like in overtime positions, you don't want to be put in overtime position and not know what the hell you're doing. To understand like why CJJ has this rule set in place in the first place is because like the OT is a pressure, right? The OT itself is a pressure, okay? If you know that the other person's better than you at OT, then you should be attacking during regulation. You should be really trying to finish in regulation. If you think you're better than the other person at OT, then you should know that, okay, well, we're gonna be doing jiu-jitsu during regulation, you know? You get some people that are trying to find like cop-outs and be like, oh, well, I just lost in OT. Well, I mean, no, you lost because you didn't prepare for OT and you weren't accepting of that pressure. I mean, in this case, we say we're jiu-jitsu fighters. This is a jiu-jitsu rule set. This is probably the most pure jiu-jitsu rule set you could ask for. That is not no time limit. In which case, everybody has their reservations. It gives no time limit. Completely understandable, This is probably the best format you can get for that. Because there's 10 minutes to work, there's actually less strategy involved. I think there's more tactics. Do you want to position yourself for the most advantageous submissions?
I am so big and strong for this weight class.
I think it's a great middle ground for people, the jiu-jitsu community that want to see jiu-jitsu still in the MMA stage. For self-defense and what a martial art's supposed to be, I feel like CJJ is a great contender for that. I feel like striking can off-balance you, if you don't have a really solid position and you go to throw a strike, then you could, while it might feel like it might be one step forward in the right direction right off the rip, if you're not getting that perfect strike that you wanted, you're 2 steps behind now.
Ryan gonna try to squeeze him out there.
If you're throwing a strike on someone, then you're controlling them with 3 limbs, not 4. There's a lot going on right there in order to have the perfect strike to throw. I think that when it comes to fighting, your average bar brawl and stuff like that, it's a good approach as a leader in the community to be able to say, oh, well, I've done MMA fights. I understand what it's like to get hit. I understand how people typically try to throw hands and stuff like that. How do you close the distance? How do you protect yourself? These are things that I feel like still need to be stressed as a martial art when it comes to introducing new people into the sport. My plan to go out there and showcase the jiu-jitsu that I've been training over the last 2 years. I feel like I have attacks on the entire body now. I'd like to show that. I know these are going to be some tough matches this weekend, so I'd like everyone to see that I'm going to be tested and I'm going to triumph from that. So, yeah.
The last time we did the middleweights, Calon Sabino was a last-minute replacement. He didn't have a training camp, and we did really well. This time's got a full training camp. He was in from the get-go. He's been training for almost 3 months for this. Gained weight. It's time for Calon Sabino to show that he belongs at the top.
My name's Calon Sabino. I'm a black belt under Andre Galvao, and I train under Atos Jiu-Jitsu. I competed at the last Worlds. They had the middleweights over in Cancun. I had 2 matches. Actually, it was a brown belt at the time. It was about 2 years ago. Eddie gave me the call about 2 weeks before, and I didn't hesitate. I jumped in. The weigh-ins are the morning of, and at that time I was a lot lighter than I am now. So I didn't really cut weight, and I remember a lot of the guys in the division, they were really big into the weight cuts. So I felt like that played a little bit of a factor. This time I am a lot heavier. I will be cutting weight this time, and as well I'm a lot more trained for this rule set, especially for the overtime. It's the overtime caught me a little bit off guard there last time. My first match, I got a really tough Mexican kid, and I was on his back the whole time, and I could only, unfortunately I didn't finish in the first 10 minutes. I only got to finish in the overtime. And then the second match was with Chambers. It was a little bit nerve-wracking. I was a little bit nervous, so I did play it a little bit safer than I wanted to in that match. I'd definitely like to go against him. Hopefully, if Ken, I don't know how they're going to set up the bracket this time. Definitely like to go against him. And I feel like I got the best of him in the 10 minutes. And then in the overtime, the 10 Planet guys, they got the overtime rules pretty down. I learned a couple tricks from him that match, and definitely one of the best experience I had, especially as my first ever jiu-jitsu tournament.
He's gonna try to unlace this thing from here. Look at that movement underneath there by Sabino.
My whole jiu-jitsu, since white belt, blue belt, I always watched CBI, I always watched Eddie a lot, so I was always a big fan of just training from bad position, training from bottom of mount, back. So I did feel comfortable in my defense and escapes, but again, in the overtime rules, you gotta escape quick, right? You can't just sit there all day just defending, right? They want, they count the time after, so it does switch things up. There's not one rule set, right? It's not like basketball, it's not like soccer. I mean, the whole point system is a mess, and every organization has a different, point system, rule set, whatever. And then it's, it's based off, sometimes, we want to see jiu-jitsu's based off what? Submission, right? Finishes. And, we want to see the finish. So that's what makes, the overtime, a little bit more real. And it also doesn't, it takes kind of that style out of guys just wanting to run the whole match, right? Just wanting to score those 2 points and then just, ride out the time. Because at the end of the day, if there's no such thing as, I'm going to win on 2, I'm going to survive for 6 minutes, and then, the guy's going to start on your back in the end, So, with this rule set, I think it should encourage guys, especially with the slaps, to, try to not go to the overtime, right? Try to finish beforehand. This is probably one of the most stacked cards as far as competitors, So it's not just like a regular combat jiu-jitsu match. And with that get down, 1 minute goes by, and it's like a lot of guys can go 1 minute without getting taken down. And okay, I get it. Some guys want to start on top because of the slaps, and some guys want to start, on bottom with the body lock. And all these guys, most of these guys are really good with that body lock. Definitely is a fight, right? There is the risk of getting TKO'd. It's a little bit more realistic because, you see in with gloves, the guys spend 20 minutes wrapping their hands before they, in an MMA fight. So you don't necessarily have to aim in combat jiu-jitsu. It is open hand. The human skull is a lot denser than the hand, right? So it's really easy. It's a lot easier to get hurt. That's why I feel like the slaps are a lot safer if there's no gloves than punches. And yeah, there are those positions that are, they're pretty much finishing positions. A guy gets a good position where he's holding you. We've seen a couple TKOs. There's some guys got heavy hands, but there's that that balance of, do you want to get too emotional, strike and lose position, or are you going to use the strikes to get the submission, right? So I think it depends on the guy's style, and yes, it's a little bit of both. Now I have a little bit more strategy depending on, which guy I'm going to be matching up with, right? I think, jiu-jitsu, just especially at the highest level, you can't just go in always with your A game, right? You got to switch the style depending on your opponent. And like I said, this was the last time was 2 years ago. It's been a long time. My game, I was only a brown belt. It was just like fresh brown belt. And I'm a lot heavier, a lot stronger, and my stand-up's gotten better. My guard's gotten better, and I've definitely been I've been fighting a lot of like heavier guys lately. So now it's like I'm kind of going back down a little bit. So it might it should help me. It should be in my favor.
And now you see Sabino reaching up, taking the seatbelt, and this is the battle. It's the back take versus the outside heel hook.
A lot of guys now are good at, controlling the center and being aware with rubber guard and leg locks, right? Leg locks aren't so much as like guys aren't so scared as leg locks as much anymore. You see a lot of guys even striking from, even in MMA, striking from the leg lock position. Before, guys were trying to pull out and getting leg lock right away. So, I think it depends a little bit on the weight classes for sure, but definitely, wrestling helps. Having a good guard helps, right? It's hard to say.
Left hand there by Sabino.
I'm going to try to get some TKOs. I'm going to try to get some positions where I worked a lot more on my, on my striking. Anybody can get hurt, and, you get hit in the wrong spot, and that, that can rock you. The level in CJJ, the guys at Eddie Pick, their jiu-jitsu, especially for striking, right, ground and pound, is probably way higher than the actual UFC, right? I believe so. I believe that the grappling in the UFC is really, really low compared to jiu-jitsu. And there's always that argument of like, all right, will these guys, these IBJJF guys, can they last with strikes, right? So, Eddie picks the right guys. I believe every guy in the bracket has jiu-jitsu for striking, right? Now what happened with jiu-jitsu, you have sport jiu-jitsu and you have jiu-jitsu for MMA, right? And I always believe, like, when you start the sport, you always want to make sure your jiu-jitsu is good for strikes. And it's like makes guys think like, hey, if I can do CJJ, can I do MMA, right? You just got to be down for it, right? Like most jiu-jitsu guys are like, oh, it's dumb because you can only slap when you're on the ground, but most of those guys, they're not even strikers in the first place, and I take, definitely it's got to take good cardio, good jiu-jitsu. I think sometimes people want to strike. If you overstrike, you're wearing yourself out for the next fight. It is a bracket. You gotta keep that in mind. But there is always a little bit of luck. There's a little bit of luck too, in it. But I would say, I'm trying to finish the fights quick, trying to put on a show, and stay hungry the whole time. It is a little bit of MMA.
Kyle Chambers representing 10th Planet Oceanside. Everybody knows Kyle Chambers. He's a leg lock master. He'll snipe you from anywhere. from the top, from the bottom. His back game is insane, and his defense about as high level as you can get.
What up, guys? Kyle Chambers here at 10 Planet Black Belt, representing 10 Planet Oceanside, 10 Planet Freaks. Man, I'm a veteran, you know, I've done a lot of different combat jiu-jitsu. I'm not new to this, I'm not a rookie, you know. I've done the Monterey Combat Jiu-Jitsu Middleweights. I had 4 fights, all the way to the finals, all submissions to the finals. Had a very back and forth match in the finals. Ended up losing by right time, you know. That's what happens sometimes when you go against the best in the world, you know. Sometimes it's hard to submit them, and it goes to the overtime, you know, and sometimes you just gotta be working on the positionals, you know, the EBI overtimes. You know, Master Eddie always preaches and tells us, like, when you go against the best in the world, sometimes you can't submit them, so you gotta work on the little finer details and the finer positions, which is usually the back and the arm bar. So over the years, there's just been fine-tuning that, getting that better, because you have to try to learn from those past mistakes, you know. So I ended up getting second, you know, silver medalist in the Monterey one, and then the last one we just did, lost actually in the 3rd round, you know, to the current champion Ryan Aitken. I had 2 strong matches. First one, I believe it was like the fastest submission in combat jiu-jitsu history. I believe it was like 19 seconds or something like that. Rolling inside Senkaku, you know, rolling Kani Basami, got it perfect. 2nd round, I believe it was against another competitor that's going to be in this year, Calon, you know, back and forth match. Couldn't finish in regulation and ended up submitting him by a triangle armbar in overtime. Lot to learn from, you know. Lost again in the 3rd round from Ryan Aitken by just the overtime, you know. So when you go against the best in the world, it's a common occurrence, a common pattern that you got to work on the finer details, work on those back takes, work on those armbar positions, because when you go against the best in the world, that's what comes down to, those little finer details. Yeah, I love just being myself. You know, I don't like to change anything from combat jiu-jitsu. Of course, there's consequences to some of your, you know, movements, you know, so you have to be realistic and understand what entries come with what, you know, what kind of hand is gonna get striked. If, you know, if I go for a spiral kind of guard, I gotta watch out for the overhand. Just being aware of what the consequences if you're not successful. But like, if you're putting in the reps, understanding the consequences, and you're smooth with it, and you have confidence in your ability, I don't think there's a difference between combat jiu-jitsu or sports jiu-jitsu, you know? There is a difference because there are strikes, of course, but if you're good, you're good. You know what I mean? If you put a lot of reps in anything, if it's 10,000 reps, it's 10,000 reps. It doesn't really matter. I feel like you could be successful, and it shows, you know. Most of my submissions, if not all of them, in this combat jiu-jitsu rules has been inside heel hooks or some type of leg lock. So the 10 Planet Foundation is meant for combat, you know, the underhook, overhook kind of system. It allows you to be safe in a striking environment. So, you know, that is the foundation of every high-level person in 10 Planet, you know. So the combination of that and having a really good room, which is Geo, you know, all the freaks that you know of, you know, allows me to feel comfortable in my abilities to perform at a high level in combat jiu-jitsu. Yes, it's a little bit dangerous because of the strikes that are involved, but it's still jiu-jitsu at the end of the day, and I'm confident in my ability. I'm locked in from the very beginning. As soon as I wake up, I'm locked in, you know? As soon as I get to the ring, I'm at the atmosphere. I can feel the energy of the crowd, energy of myself, just putting on my fresh uniform, you know, my fresh fit. It's already in the back of my mind. So when I'm on the stage and I hear my name, it's already pretty much a fight. We shake hands, you know, it's respectfully, of course. You know, I want to win. I'm competitive. He's trying to take something from me, and I'm not gonna let it. So it's a fight as soon as we shake hands.
It's over.
Oh my goodness!
That may be the fastest submission in combat jiu-jitsu history.
Of course, it's always gonna be a shock the first time you get hit in comp. You know, the first match is always gonna be like, you know, the little bit of butterflies, but at the end of the day, it's gonna feel like home because I've done it so many times. You just gotta have faith in your abilities and just let it flow, you know. G always says just dance out there, you know, just have fun, because, you know, when you are dancing, when you are having the best of your ability, that's when the best ability comes out, you know, because you're having a good time. My mentality, for one, is I don't like overtime. I don't feel like if I win overtime, that's not a successful win to me. I don't care if I submit the guy, I win by right time. That's not my game. We've been taught since day one is to get that kill. You know me, I'm trying to finish you in 20 seconds. I'm trying to show you that I'm better than you. And the only way I'm gonna really show you that I'm better than you is to kill you in regulations. When you have, like I said, the 19-second submission, you know, you have what it would have been like 12 more minutes of mat time that you can just rest now, get your mind, regroup, you know, drink something, eat something, versus somebody that just had, you know, a 10-minute war plus 3 top and bottom overtime war. You can't do that. You can do it for 4 rounds because we have the cardio, we are pro athletes, but it wears on you, versus someone that's just fresh. He had 1 minute mat time, now it's the finals. He's gonna be way fresher than you. So it's very important to just get in, get out, be very technical, be a sniper, get in and, you know, get your submission and get your hand raised. Combat Jiu-Jitsu is one of those things that is just really good to see the real life applications. You know, you get to see what you can and cannot do in a real fight without really all the damage and carnage, you know, but you can see TKOs if you don't respect the strikes, you know, so I feel like it's the new evolution of the future. You have to be on guard, you have to be active, you have to be aware 100% of the time, because the moment that you're not, the moment you're not moving, the moment you're not blocking, that's when you get submitted, that's when you get countered, that's when you get hit in the face. So I love just having that real life, okay, this is what I would do if I was in a real life fight. This is what I would do in Combat Jiu-Jitsu. Okay, what moves do work in both Sports Jiu-Jitsu and Combat Jiu-Jitsu? Which moves just like don't work at all? You know, so it's kind of cool to see, because if you do get attacked on the street, you would like to know what move's really gonna work versus, you know, trying to do, I don't know, whatever, pull guard right away or something, get kicked in the face or something, you know? Like sometimes somebody gets you off guard or something, you're like, okay, I gotta make you pay for that a little bit, and it also creates good reactions, you know? If I hit you one, or you'll see in some of my matches, I go in Z guard or something, or another type of guard, and I get a couple good hits in, you start turning away, I get the back, or I get to create a controlled scramble, which allows me to get another deep position, you know? So I strike when it's available. I don't wanna strike too much to lose position. A lot of times you're kind of sloppy when you hit punch, you throw strikes, you know, you try to do the palm strike. So I'd rather get a position, control you, use less energy and finish you that way. But there is positions that you can do, that you can kind of do both. You can drain them, you can isolate them, and still throw strikes. But I call those like kill positions, but you got to get those first. If you're not really in those kill positions, it might not be really in your favor to throw strikes, because you're losing energy and you might lose a position. Then you're back neutral, and then you got to work for everything all over again. So you might as well just go for your finish. Yeah, man, I'm super excited, man. I love being on a big stage. I love the pressure. I love that feeling. I love the crowd. I can't wait to just be me, that freak style, very unorthodox, coming in, just dancing, just doing me, going for that finish however I can. You know, I'm an opportunist. You know, I'll go for whatever I want. If it breaks, I'll take it. You know, I love it, you know? So, yeah, I just want to go out there and get some quick finishes and just wait to go to the finals.
If William Tackett takes his belt, that would mean 3 Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds belts from one school. Checkmate Austin. We had Cody Steele win the welterweight belt in 2019, and then Andrew Tackett, his brother, just won it a few months ago at welterweight. Now it's William Tackett's turn.
My name is William Tackett, and I'm a black belt at a Fight Factory in Austin, Texas. So I saw Combat Jiu-Jitsu start around the time that EBI started to phase out a little bit. They started transitioning more into the combat. I remember like Richie Martinez won pretty early on. There was a lot of really good champions, but my teammate Cody Steele won. I think he might have won the first 170-pound title. So that was kind of the first spark of my interest. And then later down the line, Andrew also competed for that same title when Cody had stepped into MMA, and Andrew won the title. So they were both able to win the 170-pound title, so I'm the only one that hasn't had my shot yet, so I'm really excited. So I've competed in a good few EBI style competitions. So when I was a kid, we had something called the Jiu-Jitsu Kumite here in Texas. So I competed in that a bunch. I fought some really good guys, a lot of up-and-coming kids. So a lot of experience on the Invitational stage. And then I've also done the BJJ Fanatics Invitationals, who have been EBI rules as well. So a lot of EBI style matches. My style of jiu-jitsu is just high pace, trying to make the matches exciting and dynamic, but trying to find the submission. I think that I'm pretty forward heavy, so I'm constantly pushing the pace and forward pressure. So I think I developed that style through training in the training room with all of my monster teammates like Cody Steele, Andrew, my coach, and just us just beating each other up every day. If you can establish your game and get on top, then it's a lot easier, because the strikes really help open up guard passes, help open up submissions. I've been strictly working passing and takedowns and top control, so it benefits my game, I think, quite a bit. But if I'm not able to make that work, then it would be a lot harder for me to play guard and look for leg attacks. These CJJs, anyone can win because the strikes make such a big difference. And then on top of it, you have the EBI overtime. So, you know, you can have some guy that's normally really good at attacking back, but not used to having his back taken. So you see an upset. So for me, like the biggest thing that I've learned, and I think will help, hopefully, moving into competing, is just understanding that anybody can win, and you just have to be your best that day. I think training it is a huge thing. You can assume that this would be the right place to strike, but whenever you get in the middle of a match, and if you haven't trained it, then you're not going to really know what that's like, know what it feels like, and maybe you're going to make space for the guy to escape, or you're going to leave yourself open for getting caught in submissions. I've seen like a reoccurring theme of people that are really good with top control is people that don't strike a lot, that they really focus on controlling the person and getting to a dominant position before just landing strikes. And then you see people that just try to throw strikes and they miss position. So I think kind of taking that approach is probably the more successful way to do it. But in the end, slaps are a little bit less powerful, right? I mean, than normal strikes like hammer fists and stuff. So you can't, the guy on bottom doesn't have to respect them as much. So you really have to get into a dominant position to do some damage. If you're slapping the guy, then you're not controlling the guy. But that can work in some scenarios, that metaphor, but not in others, because I could have you in a triangle choke and I could slap you because both my hands are free, but I'm controlling you with my legs. So you're not going anywhere, regardless if I slap you or not. Same thing like if I had you in a gift wrap and a body triangle and I have you belly down with a gift wrap, I have one free hand. It's not going to change the amount of control me slapping you or not. So it really just depends on who understands that. And if you understand that, then it'll benefit you. And if you don't, then it might be a disadvantage. Knowing that you can just establish whatever game that you play against anybody and really staying strong and hard-nosed with that can really help. But just knowing how to like maybe change up the strategy too, right? Like, okay, I know that maybe playing leg locks against this guy's not the right answer, so knowing to be able to change that. So I mean, it's tough doing competitions where you have multiple matches in an evening. Like, I mean, I've won the ADCC trials, which is a bracket of 256 people, and that was across the course of 2 days. So there's a lot of matches within 2 days, and it just really takes you being able to like establish your game against anybody, but make minor adjustments based off of kind of what style they play or where they're dangerous or where you see that they have holes. In the moment, it just has to be staying focused and just leaving it all out on the mat, because there's nothing else that you can really do. Like if you lose focus for a split second, you're getting your leg broke. You know, if you don't give it out all on the mat, maybe you had a close match and you end up just breaking and folding before your actual breaking point, then you lose the match. So you can have someone that's never trained jiu-jitsu before watch a jiu-jitsu match and kind of get lost, not know what's going on, but like if they know at any point in time someone can just hit the guy, then at least they have something that they can scream from the crowd, like hit him, you know, because they don't know any jiu-jitsu, but everyone knows what a slap is. So like, it's a little, in a way, there's parts of it that they can grasp that maybe they couldn't grasp in regular jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just more exciting, really. So people want to see me do it, so I'm down to do it. You know, it's just another title. I'm trying to collect all the titles, so if I can go out there and get some good matches, I'm happy. If I can go out there and win the title, even more happy, you know.
Combat Jiu-Jitsu is my personal favorite part of MMA, of the UFC. I love striking, I like it, but what I really love is Jiu-Jitsu with strikes. We have no judges, no points, no advantages. The competitors decide who wins the match.
Well, my name is Javier Torres. I'm a third degree black belt, Jiu-Jitsu, and also I'm a black belt in Judo.
Let's go.
Last time I participated with I think it was the first time they do the middleweight for Combat Jiu-Jitsu that we did it, and also the first time they did it in Mexico, and it was in Monterrey, Mexico. It was pretty excited, and for me also too, because it was my first time being a vegan. I was a vegan back then. And I was a vegan in that moment, and I had to break my vegan diet because I couldn't find vegan food in Mexico. It was really hard for me right in the moment. But it was an exciting match. I don't know anything about Nick. You know what I mean? I really don't study Jiu-Jitsu. I just literally, when I compete somebody, I don't think nothing's gonna surprise me. I've been doing Jiu-Jitsu since 20 years. So I just literally go there and I had a feeling of the person, and I feel the hips and I feel the way they grab the wrist or things like this. You know, by my jiu-jitsu, I always tell these people are always gonna full guard me. So I'm already know what to do, what I have to do, and that's my plan. That's how it normally goes. But yeah, the moment you step in the mat, I think that's when you get the switch. The moment you say check your hands, boom, that's it. That's the fight right there. You know, it's jiu-jitsu, but you know, the slapping game can change the game. And when I realized this guy wasn't wearing a mouthpiece, I was like, oh my goodness, this guy, I don't know what he's thinking in his head too. You know what I mean? I think he's just going to think he's jiu-jitsu in his head. I don't know, but it's not my problem. My problem is thinking about me, not about the other guy. My style, I know I'm a stand-up guy. I did judo before jiu-jitsu. I've been doing judo for 21 years, and I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 20 years. I went to the highest levels in judo. I won 3-time nationals in the United States judo, and my judo coach was Olympic champion. And like he always say, I don't want you just to be a black with judo. I want you to be that judo guy. Especially in the combat jiu-jitsu, I like to start standing. And it's another thing, you need to understand the rules. Because you stay standing for after the minute, you throw the coin, you lose the bet, you got your butterfly position, now the punches start running. So you need to understand the time where you're at, and I like to play the top position. I like guard passing, you know what I mean? I like to be top, because also my MMA ground background, you know what I mean? It helps me a lot. How to play top position, how to control the wrist, how to control the hand, how to do a lot of that stuff. Pressure, I like pressure. You can't punch somebody from the bottom. I think combat jiu-jitsu is the same thing. You can punch, you can do, like in the bottom, you can see a man with Nigger and he was trying to punch me from the bottom. I got his hand, I said, go ahead, hit me. And then like people like, holy moly, dude, you can't hit nobody, you got no power. You don't create the momentum. You don't want to be too much in the bottom because you're going to eat too much damage. You know, when you have a strong guy, good guy, you're going to eat a lot of damage. You know what I mean? So you got to think about that too, you know. I pretty much did everything, and I love it. I love the concept. You know what I mean? Yes, you're still playing jiu-jitsu. Yes, you can't play too much jiu-jitsu because now you're going to get open to a big punches in your face. Makes sense? So it's things like this you got to understand. It felt right into me. You know what I mean? I love it. I love the concept. You know what I mean? And I like it. It's just perfect for me. This is very real. It's like you can feel everything. You know what I mean? You can feel every moment, everything, every hand, everything. You know what I mean? And people that talk a lot about it because they never have the experience. You know what I mean? Even to be in an MMA fight, even to be in a combat jiu-jitsu, of course. But I feel like they don't have the experience of that. You know what I mean? I think they have. At least one in your lifetime, you have to experience. You know what I mean? I'm one of the guys, I always like to try everything. I want to say I did everything. You know, I fought Muay Thai, I fought boxing, I fought MMA, I wrestled, judo, everything. I can tell you, I literally did everything. And like now, I'm doing combat jiu-jitsu again. You know what I mean? You gotta have that mentality, the roughness, the strength. You believe in yourself too. Whatever I walk in the world, I know I own it. Whatever I walk to a man, I own the man. I'm like that because I own places. I like to walk to places I own it. It's my attitude. You know, I walk to the gyms and all over the world because I travel a lot. And I know my shit. I know I own this thing. The same thing when I walk there, I fucking own this shit. You know, that's the mentality you gotta walk to places. Like, you own this motherfucker. You in on this motherfucker. You know, I always bring the best out of me. Win or lose, I'm always gonna give my best. You know what I mean? I try to always win. You know, and I'm going when I get the best guys in the world. So I expect them to bring the best game, the A game to me, because I'm bringing my A game to them as well. And that's what it is. You know what I mean? Just be ready, like I say, to play jiu-jitsu, to hit me hard as you want, to knock me out there. I'm okay with it. I knock the people out too as well. Looking for the knockout, looking for the submission, looking for something. I just want the best. And you're gonna see a crazy Javier Torres like over there.
Combat Jiu-Jitsu can look very dangerous to certain people, and it could look very tame to other people. For example, MMA fighters look at Combat Jiu-Jitsu as, it's a very safe form of MMA, the safest form ever. But pure Jiu-Jitsu stylists, they look at Combat Jiu-Jitsu like, oh my God, this is gangster. You can get your nose broken, you can get your orbital broken.
My name's Chris Dempsey. I'm a black belt and I represent the Mat Factory. So I started wrestling when I was 7. So I've been That's almost 30 years now I've been wrestling. Combat Jiu-Jitsu is, it's a little bit more brutal than regular sport Jiu-Jitsu, but I think it also gives a lot more of a realistic view of how Jiu-Jitsu would work in a real life application. We started messing around with doing combat rounds probably about 2 years ago. And there are not too many people in the gym that want to do combat rounds. I know how to use my weight, and I know how to use that pressure against somebody, whether they're bigger or smaller than me. A lot of people that do give me problems or challenge me are the guys who like to go underneath and play that underneath game, where in combat jiu-jitsu, when you want to play that underneath game, you have to worry about strikes, and I think that'll be a huge advantage. You have to be honest with yourself of what kind of athlete you are, and really in any aspect or any sport, and then use that to your advantage. Overall, most of us who are competing, and I know a lot of the people who I saw who are on this card, like they're competing in point systems, they're competing in EBI systems, and so I think most of us anyway are just trying to kind of push ourselves, see how far we can get, and just trying to win any tournament no matter what rule set there is out there. It means a lot to know that I didn't give up on something and it's still paying off. And I mean, I'm 36 years old, and I'm sure most of these guys are almost half my age in this tournament, so to still be able to do it at my age is it means a lot to me. I know a lot of jiu-jitsu players, and I don't know very many who want to do combat jiu-jitsu. So, but as far as the MMA guys coming off and not being able to fight anymore, I think this kind of gives them an outlet and an avenue to still compete and still compete at a high level, but not go through those grinding, grueling 8-week camps that we had to go through and beating our bodies up, because we got beat up more in camp than we did in the fight. And something like this kind of gives us something where we're still being able to hit people and try to submit them, but we're not beating our bodies up like we were before. I think combat jiu-jitsu is about as close to MMA as you can get without actually fighting MMA. And I think most of the naysayers are out there because they're afraid to do it themselves. Everybody loves a cool knockout, like Derek Lewis with a one-punch knockout, or a head kick from Izzy, or what, like that sells, and that's why the UFC is where it is right now. But how many people in the world can do that? How many Derek Lewises are out there? How many Izzy's are out there? There's not very many, but this is something where it opens up to a whole new group of people. I just hope to bring a high pace and try to stay on top and use my MMA background to open up my jiu-jitsu and hopefully come out with the championship.
My name is Joe Kropscott. I'm a black belt, just got it like a year ago. Train under John Santos, he's a Cesar Gracie black belt, so we're under that Cesar Gracie banner. And Gilbert Melendez is also one of my coaches. I'm an MMA fighter. Like I've been kind of competing in that, but I started with jiu-jitsu. That was my first love. And I just immediately knew, I was like, oh, that's a rule set that I would excel at. I heard Eddie on Joe Rogan talking about it, and I was like, oh, that sounds right up my alley. I saw someone get knocked out in it. It got stopped, and I was like, oh, I gotta be on there. It looks so sick. I do like the rules. I think if you can't get the job done in the 10 minutes to submit the guy, I think you can't complain about anything. So if you better be good at those back positions. Palm strikes, that's not scary to me. Like, I'm used to getting kneed or elbowed. And I definitely think my style is exciting for that, because I have good wrestling, good top pressure, and nasty ground and pound. So I think it's a good mix for me. Normal jiu-jitsu, you could be playing like some berimbolo, bottom game, like deep half stuff, but in this combat jiu-jitsu, you're gonna be getting opened up with palm strikes. I think all the palm strikes need to count. So I'm not gonna be just throwing like crazy slaps. I think it's in like these brief moments where a quick palm strike might open something up, but I'm mainly focusing on the jiu-jitsu, the positioning, and the subs. I think it's like a cool hybrid system, kind of like MMA is a hybrid of combined in martial arts. I think this makes jiu-jitsu a little bit more practical. It's not just, you can't just lay on your back. But I think it does just open up and make someone move. Maybe they're defending an arm bar and you slap them a couple times to get the arm extended. My style is definitely like, it's basics. Like I'm mainly hitting arm triangles, rear naked chokes, Darce chokes, like very basic subs. But I think my style is like, I'm long, so I'm like 6'3", and I have decent wrestling for a lanky guy. So I'll try to get people down, put the top pressure on them, make them turtle. And then from there, I really get to work. I'm really trying to get my name into this like jiu-jitsu, like the elite group of jiu-jitsu guys. And I think it was hard while I was doing MMA to be taken seriously in the jiu-jitsu world. But I think I'm fully going into the jiu-jitsu world. And I think after this night, they're going to be like, oh, Joe Kropscott's one of the best grapplers in the world.
From Tucson, Arizona. Don't miss it. Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds returns.